So we're just waiting for the viewers and waiting for 9 before we start the show.
Yeah, it's super early warm up, but we figured we're here already.
I'm seeing YouTube ads of,
Yes, 9-9.
because the Burmats have begun.
Although the retail holidays have gotten very crazy, given that we're celebrating any repeating digit now.
Yeah. Which I think it's because people just like sales. And I think it's ultimately people have gotten bored of the usual holidays.
Possibly.
I mean, you still have Christmas, and of course, everyone will love Christmas. But then, stuff like Thanksgiving, Halloween, etc., they don't feel as cool anymore.
As retail holidays go. And it's funny because we didn't bother with Black Friday here. Instead, we have 9, 10, 10, 11, 11.
But there was a
12,
time that
8,
we
8.
almost started having Black Friday here too.
Which is just doesn't make sense because you don't have Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah, just refresh that. You should probably.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted looking at the other stuff.
Oh, it's already there. I know.
It's not.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it
refresh.
is.
But refresh. Is it? Yeah, just refresh
Ah!
that. You should probably.
I should kill my volume.
There.
Doo-doop, 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 doop, doop, doop.
What is this song?
Okay, waiting for the YouTube. For
Refresh
Facebook
the
one.
whole page.
Yeah. You're still looking at the Cobra Kai soundwave.
That is Sir Soundwave, okay? He is a gorgeous shattered glass Soundwave. I still don't know if I want him. So tempted.
Well, it's not official.
That's the thing. That's
The moment
thing.
you get one that's not official, there's so many good other non-official ones.
It breaks my no third-party Transformers rule. Although I have purchased third-party Transformers accessories, like extra guns and things.
So yeah, if you've joined the stream, please comment so we know you're there. But we are still in the warm-up 5 minutes before the show.
We officially start at 9, so don't worry.
And it's always around this time my nose starts getting itchy again. It's annoying because in a normal, you're just sitting and working. You don't.
Is it
really-
because we turn off the fan? And
Maybe.
you need the fan blowing at you, or I don't know.
But it's like that this specific area starts getting annoyed, and you just need to brush against it. And it's sometimes you just have to find reasons to be happy, especially with the way the government is the government. Hey, Kenny, what's my conditioner? Oh, this is called body oil.
It's just Head and Shoulders for shampoo, no
Yeah.
conditioner. It's just natural body oil.
And body oil, because I don't use that much product. Admittedly, even the shampoo, I just like use a small pea. So I think
You use more than a pea.
no, I use a pea. Yeah, I use a pea.
No.
Yes, I do. It's my fault. My pea is bigger than your pea.
It's probably a garbanzo then. I don't know. It's not a pea.
Andre says, "Hello. What shirts are you wearing?" You can see him peeking.
We forced a repeat, so we're wearing our Spock shirts today because it's Star Trek Day.
Oh,
It
I
is.
don't remember Shark's voice anymore.
You'll get it.
I haven't been
Once
doing
you get
Shark.
in character, you'll figure it out.
But yeah, we're wearing our Spock shirts because of our topic, which is
Star Trek Day.
I will not attempt it.
Do it.
I'll probably do it wrong.
Do it. I can
And
do
I'll
one hand.
I look very embarrassed trying it.
Of course, it was really like that
Probably.
in the hood.
No, I won't try it.
Come on, you have time. It's not yet started.
Ah, yeah.
Yay! Other hand.
See, these are like frog hands. You realize, or Muppets.
But not penguin, because penguin was this. So that best Ninja Turtles.
Imagine if we really had hands.
No.
Like
We're not gonna go there. Don't do this. Don't
that.
do this.
Imagine playing the piano.
No.
The pains of typing. When my pinky's angry, it keeps separating.
Of course, if our fingers were really like this, then the user interfaces would have evolved differently
Not necessarily.
to match
Not
the finger
everything.
types.
Not everything has been fully optimized based on our human form.
But something as basic as keys for these fingers, I'm sure would have been adapted to.
If things were optimized, then no one would be wearing pants
because
because skirts are so much faster to wear.
that goes beyond functionality. That's already
No,
societal.
there would not have
dictates.
been a huge need for bras. I can't do that hand pose from Kenny. Andre says, sorry, gonna go lower the volume. That's all right. You can always watch the episode again.
You can try the automatic captions and just laugh.
We are
I don't know if that works.
We're
on
always
live.
happy when people join us live, but we understand that, life has its demands, and the pandemic still makes it hard sometimes. Jeanette, hello for joining. You haven't commented, but I saw you liked it, so I hope that means you're watching the show.
Or did you just like the video as it appeared on your feed? I mean, we appreciate general social support like this. Engagement is always valued, but not one of the most important metrics in Facebook.
Now I'm thinking we should have had the small ones ready.
What small ones?
So what's in the box? So we can hold them.
We would not do that to my models.
Aren't those just toys?
They're not
They're
just
models?
toys. They're die-cast Starship models.
No, the small ones. The one from Fully Booked.
Oh, okay. I thought you were pointing at my Eagle Moss ships.
No, of course not.
We're not gonna.
Why would
play
I
with-
ever play with your Eagle Moss stuff? I was talking about those stuff because those are like, they're usually just made for display.
They're mega mini kits.
But we can and they look huge.
Except that tricorder is very loud.
But yeah, it would have been nice if we had that, so we can use it.
It's like it's so far away, right? Like we can't get there in the 1 minute,
Yeah, but it's 9 o'clock, so I guess we should start, right?
Yes.
Timer starts now. This is Tobie.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
This is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you for always watching our show and sharing the stream.
I like how assumptive we are that you are always watching this show.
Of course! But it's, we only have 30 minutes, so let's get started as we talk about...
Hey, welcome to Star Trek Day 2020! Yeah, we're wearing our Spock... I can never do this right. Okay. But we're wearing our Spock shirts, so we forced a repeat of our shirts, finally, after 25 episodes of unique shirts.
Although we still have other unique shirts.
I think we have at least 2 more sets, ish, to wear. So we'll get to that. But today's Star Trek Day, so we gotta wear it. So why is it Star Trek Day? Because on this day in 1966, the Star Trek the original series first came out on U.S. television, and that's how we got here. So today is all about Star Trek. It's not quite as popular as May the 4th, I feel, for Star Wars, but hey, we're trying to make it a thing, more of a thing now.
And it's not a rivalry.
Yeah,
It's just about celebrating things. Hi, RV. Thanks for joining us.
Go ahead, do it, Tobie. Do it, Tobie. Do it. Okay.
Perfect excuse.
Yeah. So where
do we start?
We don't have a strong format for this. We're just gonna talk about the franchise as a whole as best we can and what we like and what what we really appreciate about it. If you have insights or things you want us to steer the direction to, feel free to chime in the comments and we'll try to see if we can address it. But yeah, we're gonna go chronologically. We have a lot of ground to cover in 30 minutes, guys, because there are so many shows. So first off, we start with what was originally just Star Trek, but then became Star Trek the original series in retrospect. And then, yeah, like I said, David 96. It only lasted for 3 seasons, although it feels like more like 2 3/4. What do we like about this? Star Trek was groundbreaking in how it addressed science fiction on conventional television. It became a great showcase for a lot of the most popular or maybe soon to be popular science fiction writers of the day.
It was groundbreaking in addressing or representing many things that were not yet expected to be on TV at that time.
Yeah, it was a great thing for diversity, both politically and in terms of race and gender.
Yeah, in terms of the topics that they would cover, the discussions that they would bring up. I mean, a lot of topics which most would consider taboo at the time were, it's a sci-fi show, so we can talk about it.
And it was, and it's a product of its time. I mean, in terms of hokey sets and stuff, and a lot of strange, really basic makeup, a lot of repeated actors, whatever. But Star Trek set this whole journey off, and and it had some amazing, amazing stories. Like we always go back to the Scene at the Edge of Forever, but then I always think about the Balance of Terror, where the Romulans first come up, because I like that submarine action. So many things to like. It ended on a weird note in terms of how it went, and there's like so many things to dive into when you talk about Star Trek: The Original Series, like the first conventions and the first letter writing campaigns to save the show and all these things. But it's what started us on this grand journey into the stars. Thanks, Gene Roddenberry. We will segue into what not a lot of people may have celebrated, is that there was the original animated series, which was done in that classic Filmation style. This got to push the science aspect and the alien aspect because of the fact that it was a cartoon. Hence, you had the very feline officer on the bridge and the guy with 3 arms, whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, animation basically means you have unlimited budget. You don't have to worry about special effects.
I don't know about unlimited, because some of that animation was like in that repeat, like we all run the same way many times.
That's a standard trick for animation. But the fact is, in an animated show, you can literally choose to just blow up 5 planets because it's just showing the same animation in different colors. Whereas in an actual show or a movie, it's going to cost a lot of your special effects budget.
But the animated series also gives us quirks like the I forgot what they exactly called them, but the weird force field belts that allowed them to just go anywhere, because it was both like a small force field and a life support system. Life support belts, whatever.
That reminds me of Legion of Superheroes in the sense that
the flight rings.
They had their flight rings that also acted as suits that protected them, so they could basically go to any environment and not have to worry about having to draw a force field or having to.
And because you just had to animate like this faint haze around them. It was genius. There's a lot of funny elements that work their way. That were in the animated series that we now pretty much consider as part of the canon, if canon is a big thing for you.
Some comments. Mai says fanfic started because of Star Trek.
There is that. There's a large letter writing community for it.
And then Indio Historian says there is also First Contact Day.
Yes, that is more of a thing after the movie, and then we're trying to celebrate it more. But I guess we're trying to focus things now on Star Trek Day as like a big day to really push the franchise forward. So beyond the animated series, Trek went silent for a while outside of conventions and such, and then we finally get to Star Trek: The Next Generation,
which I guess many are more familiar with compared to the fact that there was the animated series.
Yes.
They think this is the second Trek.
Yeah, and this also is like started the tradition of 7-season Treks. The Next Generation lasted for quite a long time. It had a shaky start. I feel like in the first season was like repeating a lot of the tropes from the original Trek and trying to go very episodic. And it wasn't until the later seasons that they really got to build more complex stories. But then there's a lot to love about the Next Generation, because then our modern understanding of what we know to be the Federation, things like the Prime Directive, I mean, things were just a lot more organized come Next Gen. It's like the Federation is a great thing, but also a very large bureaucracy that kind of steers stories to some degree. But hey, we love Next Gen.
Would it be safe to say that it was in Next Gen wherein they tried to have a tighter, what's the word? It's not meta plot.
No, not yet. Still not yet.
They still were very.
It was still very loose. Yeah, we had a lot of 2-part episodes, which were typically dovetailed the end of one season and the beginning of the next. So things like The Best of Both Worlds and Reunification are all two-part episodes that straddled their respective seasons and such. Although I may have made a mistake for Reunification. But yeah, it was still a largely an episodic format. They did not go into serialized storytelling just yet. Next Generation gave us a lot to love. It gave us the Borg, of course, as a strange antagonist. It gave us Q as a weird prankster and excuse to make to make to make people dress up in silly costumes.
According to Mai, it gave us Picard.
Of course, it gave us Picard, and it started the Captain Wars, where we all started thinking about who is the best captain because every show centers around its leader.
Mai also adds RPN 9. I guess that was where it was.
That's where we would watch Trek. You could trust Channel 9 to deliver Trek to us for some degree, at least for TNG.
RV also adds the first season of TNG wasn't as good. Picard was the exception.
Well, I mean that's a given. I mean because I feel like the first season of TNG just tried to do a lot of the classic Trek tropes. And, controversial or not, I feel like Gene Roddenberry's heavier involvement in the early season still influenced a lot. And then that's why it felt like it was trying to be too close to the original series. And then it became its own creature. The second season is still a weird place with a different doctor on the ship and all that. But it gets its stride over time. And we learn to love all the characters. I was a big Data fan. I mean, I'm always keen on the outsider figure in the cast, whether that was Spock in the original series or, of course, Data in Next Gen. It's a thing. Okay. Then we go to Deep Space Nine. And if going back to your, is this where serialized storytelling really started to happen? Deep Space Nine is the place. And we have, of course, Ron Moore to thank for a lot of that. So before he went on to make his BSG, reboot, he really got to play around in the later seasons of Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was controversial because
it wasn't on a ship.
It was a space station, and it was very similar to Babylon 5, which came out around the same time. I'm not going to touch that controversy too much. But I don't know. Deep Space Nine is very near and dear to my heart. I think it's also because I was already a fully realized Trekkie by then. And it was the Trek that I was determined to watch from the beginning. So when I knew it was coming out, and Deep Space Nine came out on Channel 5. Oh my gosh, was it an ABC 5 show? I super was determined to stick with it. And Cisco was strange because he wasn't even a captain. He was a commander for the space station. They had such a strange crew. The many parallels with the Bajorans, with the Philippines and the Spanish occupation. I mean, all these things.
I felt like the presence of aliens was also bigger in Deep Space Nine. Partly because
of the location, that you had this revolving group of people coming in and out.
Hong Kong / Singapore in space, wherein everyone would go through there and they'd have all these diplomatic events and military exercises and engagements. So yeah.
And then Deep Space Nine, though, I mean, I feel like the first season or so was a struggle of they wanted to be like the other Treks, and they did not immediately embrace their space station nature. And therefore, so many runabout stories, so many missions where we're going to take a tiny shuttle out and do classic Trek-like adventures when it only has micro torpedoes and a small phaser array.
And there were so many were stuck in the runabout.
Yes, stuck in the runabout. The runabout crashes. And
the engine is wrong. We can't do this and that.
It wasn't as bad as Voyager's magical disposable shuttles. And we'll get to that in a bit. But Deep Space Nine runabouts were wow, they got a lot to do. So later on, they just gave up and gave them the Defiant. So hey, you have a full ship. Ironically, I feel like Deep Space Nine, despite, obviously it was a lot of development for Bajor and things, it actually gave us a lot more development for the Klingons because they spun off from their Federation alliance. They became more an independent presence and they were active in the Dominion War. All these good things. So I really like that. And Deep Space Nine gave us some very memorable gray characters, whether it's loving Garak the Tailor, who's just plain simple Garak, or there's a large following for Gul Dukat as one of maybe the best villains of Trek.
It's a villain you can relate with, and that makes a great villain.
Yes. Okay. So, wow, and I forgot I wanted to touch the movies as part of the show. We'll just have to circle back to movies later.
I think we'll touch on the movies after we go through all this because it's going to be part of the
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. We're just gonna try to get through the shows.
My ads, the Maki.
Yes, the Maki, which and I like the little handoffs because this was a lot of overlapping Trek. TNG overlap with Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine overlap with Voyager.
913 reminder. 913 reminder.
Oh, I just put the sign. And then but we had elements of like because we had Ro Laren, the Bajoran in TNG, and her mini story that evolved into let's explore Bajor in Deep Space Nine. And then they all introduced the Maquis as resisting Cardassians. And then the Maquis become more important in Voyager.
Yes.
So Voyager, as much as Deep Space Nine is very dear to one of my favorites, but Voyager is like comfort food for me.
Voyager is where I got it.
I introduced Tobie to Star Trek formally through Voyager. I didn't start him with TNG or TOS.
And this is not that I did not see the show before. I have seen previous snippets of some of the original series, some of TNG, and I never really got into it. But then when I tried Voyager, I just fell in love with the characters. I loved the captain. It's still sad though when I start remembering some of the episodes.
Yeah, so I introduced Tobie to Star Trek fully, properly by watching Voyager from start to finish, and because I felt like it was a nice, tighter meta plot, the most magical shuttle production ever. But and again, the first season takes a while to warm into. I mean, I don't think people fully got on board with Kes, but then eventually learned to love Neelix.
Yeah, Neelix was annoying when I first. I mean,
and that was by design.
He felt like he was meant to be comic relief, and it felt out of place for some reason.
Tuvok as security officer was like an interesting role for a Vulcan. I mean, we're so used to thinking Vulcan science, science and medical, and then here he was a
more aggressive role.
He was security, and worse, he was an espion. He was involved in espionage because he infiltrated the Maquis. And then we had, of course, Bilana Torres, who gave us our conflicted dual character nature. A lot of the cast was weird. I mean, like initially it was hard to like Tom Paris. Then you kind of appreciate the Paris Kim tandem as a buddy comedy unit, but that's about it. And then, I mean, we have Chakotay, and Chakotay, I feel like it's just the writing did not live up to the character.
Yeah,
there was so much potential for Chakotay, and they didn't quite know what to do with it. Then we get all these Native American episodes.
And all these, he just stares and slowly smiles. It's like, we don't know what to let him say, so let's just give him a moment.
And of course,
Jace here?
Yeah,
I didn't quite get that, so I'm not sure.
Then,
you can write more.
And then, what I also like, I mean, Voyager, of course, gave the ultimate fan service because we knew that we were going to be where the Borg are. And we got to fully explore the Borg. And we got the weird one-upsmanship of we will make a threat scarier than the Borg.
Yes.
And then we pushed the time travel element, and there was actually temporal police from the future and all these things. There were a lot of crazy moments in Voyager, but on the whole, I still love Voyager. And of course, 7 of 9 was the proper like outsider character that gave a new direction for the show,
and a new direction and a new way for people who aren't familiar with the show to try to relate with. Because she was someone trying to understand what this all was about. So
yeah,
I didn't agree with her relationship.
There, that was mentioned. Yeah.
Oh, my says JC
suddenly
is
they paired. Oh yeah, and
go.
Suddenly they paired Chakotay to 7. Yeah, that never sat well with us. I always wanted 7 to somehow form something stronger with the Doctor, which they sort of did. But then again, he's a hologram.
Yeah,
so what can you do?
that offered opportunities had they pushed that more. But I guess they didn't want Janeway to end up with so.
We're running out of time. Okay.
We still have a lot to cover, and there's 13 minutes left.
Enterprise, for the longest time, was the redheaded stepchild of the Star Trek franchise. I mean, it was easy to hate on it when it first came out.
Yeah, I remember a lot of hate.
It was the Trek with the vocals in the theme song, and all these things, and it was weird. Like, we really need a prequel, but But Scott Bakula was an amazing choice for
Mm-hmm.
this captain. It was nice to see him in action again.
Mm-hmm.
And the crew takes a while to warm up to
Yeah.
because like things like what's his name, the navigator Mayweather.
Mhm.
I feel like he barely had anything to do in a lot of parts of the first season. Um, and then Hoshi, the communications officer, was interesting because supposedly she pioneers translation technology for the humans.
Yeah, but
Um,
she very much reminded
My
me.
nose is now itchy also.
She very much reminded me of the empath from TNG.
Oh,
wherein,
yeah,
wherein
yeah.
it was almost always, what is he trying to say? He's angry, and I'm like, of course it's angry.
She wasn't a Betazoid,
No,
but yeah, she played a
but it-
similar
but
function.
it had that similar, if your languages, I kind of want you to be a little bit better at it. And I know you're the first one to do it well, but it just felt very, you're stating the obvious there.
I still love Enterprise because it gave us strange things like the decontamination chamber
Yes.
and making almost every member of the primary cast be scantily clad in the decontamination chamber. It gave us a dog on a starship,
It gave us the realization that, yes, they wear underwear under those uniforms.
Yes, it's standard underwear for everyone in very bright blue.
I admittedly really loved how transporter technology was still new.
Yeah.
So it offered all
I'm still making Tobie watch
yeah,
Enterprise.
so it offered all those new twists. Why don't you just transport out? And in most of the other shows now, it's like, oh, we're getting interference, we're getting all these magical reasons that suddenly it can't work. But in Enterprise, it was nice how you're watching like, oh yeah, they can't just transport.
Yeah, there was a lot of I feel like they could have explored more of that, and then it was weird when they also pushed time travel a lot more,
Yes.
and the temporal Cold War. That was a weird angle. Bringing in the Borg for an episode, that was a weird choice. But hey, First Contact.
Those felt like fan service.
Yeah, or trying to make it more relatable to like
Mhm.
modern Trek fans and to make it not feel too archaic. And then but things really the whole Cindy War thing was actually quite fascinating and leading up to possibly the Romulan War and the actual formation of the Federation, which got addressed in books later on. But that it had a lot of potential. It didn't get to fully realize it, and it was the first of the Treks in a long time that didn't get 7 seasons.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
Reference. Okay. Then it took a long time where we didn't have Trek, and it was so weird. And all of us Star Trek fans just kept talking about we don't have Trek on TV.
Mhm.
What the heck's going on? So we get to our modern era of new Trek, and then I forget how many consecutive weeks or months of Trek we're gonna have now this year. But first we have Star Trek Discovery, which was a little tricky to get into because it was like it's a reboot ish, but not. It's a prequel, but which universe are we in? Really?
And many of us were still dealing with the scars of the movies. So
the
so trust
2009
issues. So you had all
timeline,
those
the
trust
Kelvin
issues
timeline. Yeah,
on
yeah.
What will this series be? Because it looks like the movies.
Because
So will
everything's super slick but darker. It wasn't
Mhm.
apple shiny like the Kelvin universe, but it's just dark and shiny and touch screen, visual hologram screen, everything.
Yeah.
But Discovery, I there's still a lot that I appreciate about it, and then
RV.
how it's brought the franchise forward.
RV just shares Discovery. Ugh.
Hey, you gotta when it works, it has good moments when it works.
Trek Discovery is tricky because I like how the stories try to explore new ideas, but I feel I guess you could say they overcommit to them.
Maybe
Because now you start wondering if those things are that good, the sport technology and all this and that. So why aren't they more common? And it's that annoying.
I mean, I like the little contrived reasons like, oh, Captain Pike ends up hating the hologram technology, and therefore we're going to have more basic communications on the Enterprise and all these things. But it's still a fascinating thing. And I give it credit for keeping Trek alive and
Mhm.
bringing it to a new generation. So that's great. Picard is like, we haven't forgotten you, Prime Universe fans,
Mhm.
and we will give you a show that harkens back to what you are more familiar with, and it's a great trek. It's very different.
Mhm.
It gives a lot to both old fans and new.
Yeah, it has enough modernity to
Yeah.
feel like it's a show for this time, but at the same time, it still pulls from nice nostalgia moments without becoming boring.
Mm, mm, mm. And it's um uh man, what else about it? I mean, the finale of season one was like okay, but weird ship decisions. But we live for the Easter eggs. Yes,
Mhm.
as Maya's like commenting on Facebook, super love the Easter eggs of Picard, and I'm still looking forward to see how it goes. I don't 100% agree with the ending, but I guess it works. But
Yeah,
it is what it is.
and I still don't get Legolas. I don't know why he was in the show at all.
He is a super Romulan.
He felt like he was just there to make sure certain scenes happened, and then they pulled him out
Yeah.
once those scenes happened.
And then some of the Easter egg cameo characters were like a waste because they
Mhm.
were just brought in to like die, and
Mhm.
I don't fully agree with that decision. But on the whole, Picard though, excellent writing, very tight storytelling.
But I hate the villain.
Yeah, the villain angle, the enemy side just didn't.
The
make
villain
sense.
felt so much like, you know,
And it still
that's-
felt like a rehash of what we're dealing with in Discovery
Exactly.
season 2 with the whole Section 31 thing.
I mean, they already had the great villain of the whole conspiracy angle and the whole. I'm trying not to use too much specifics, but there is a certain prophecy that they're looking at, and that group itself could have been the focus of the villains.
Yeah,
And the prophecy
it's
could have
just-
simply
it's
been
just
a we
things.
still don't know if it will really happen. But instead they went for full, oh look, it's like the Matrix is part of the is part of the world now. And it's not like we don't have a robotic artificial intelligence threat already existing.
Yes, because
Let's make a new
because
one.
of Discovery. So how that'll link up, we don't know. Quickly chiming into comments. Kenny on YouTube was asking how we got into Trek. So Tobie had watched some, but I formally got him into
Yes.
Voyager. My dad introduced me to Trek. We started TOS. He made me watch TOS. I watched it out of order, but it was like starting to show on Star World at the time,
Mhm.
and then I finally got caught up. And then TNG was also on Star World. I got to watch it there. Deep Space Nine, like I said, was on ABC5, and then Voyager. Actually, I caught it because of Hallmark.
Mhm.
The Hallmark Channel. We stayed up every night to watch Voyager. And Indo historian also mentions he got into Trek because of Voyager. Pico was asking, where would you start with Trek? Honestly, I think the easiest Trek to slide into is going to be Voyager. I feel Voyager is like the Federation is remote, so it doesn't
Mhm.
overwhelm you in terms of concept. I mean, Discovery is a decent place too, but it's a whole different Trek, and I don't know if it's harder for Discovery people to go back to older Trek.
I feel
iterations.
though it depends also on what you're used to.
Mm,
If you're more used to shows like, let's say, 24 or Designated Survivor, when it's all about this small location, conspiracy, and the like, then maybe you'd find Deep Space Nine more to your liking. Because Voyager kind of goes high concepts with, we're thrown to this part of space.
Well, there
and you
was the
you have
whole
godlike beings.
warp
And this is still a
thing.
sci-fi thing. And it can be confusing in that way.
Okay, wait, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I gotta highlight. So I haven't actually watched Lower Decks. I'm
Yes.
super excited to. I'm kind of waiting for the season to end before I formally watch it.
Mhm.
But based on the many spoilery things I see on Twitter, I am loving the deep references, and I think it's a nice, funny direction to take because it's still a lot of inherent love for the franchise, but in a very different direction. And a lot of people criticize it because it didn't take it seriously and things like that. But at the same time, these are the same people who were saying the Orville was the continuation of Trek We Deserve versus Discovery, which to some degree it is. But no, I mean, there's more than enough room for all these different kinds of Treks IDIC.
The art style, for me, also seems to harken back to the original animated series in the sense that it has that, what's the word, flat tones and, I mean, if you look at modern animation
I need you to
nowadays-
watch the animated series and then really think about this statement.
No, because if you look at modern animation now, you got a lot of multi layers depth. I mean, it's like they created the cartoon with Photoshop.
Well, because it's also the Rick and Morty influence.
Yeah, but given now modern animation, they could have made it so much more. What's the word? Well, more like this, more vibrant with neon colors and that. But instead, they still chose to have a almost classic feel. It almost looks like old cartoons.
Okay, I'll give you that. All right. There's a lot of upcoming Trek, and I'm a little worried if we are oversaturating the world with Trek. I feel that when we have too much Trek going on, it becomes a problem. But then we have the Nickelodeon show Prodigy, which we're not quite sure what we're going to cover. We know that there's Strange New Worlds, which will give us Adventures of Captain Pike and number 1, which admittedly excites me the most. There is the Section 31 spin-off for Michelle Yeoh, which I'm half and half. I mean, Michelle Yeoh is turning into that. She's just awesome because it's Michelle Yeoh character.
And I'm worried that show might become like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Could be.
I'm very worried.
I don't know.
It might be the show that focuses on the action sequences.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things to touch on. And then very, very briefly, I don't know how to talk about the movies very briefly, but technically in terms of franchises, it is only the original series and Next Generation that have gotten movies. The original series had 6 movies,
yes,
which started the informal rule that odd-numbered episodes are bad, and even numbers are good, because Wrath of Khan is awesome. The Voyage Home is awesome.
And giant animals must appear at some point because they help the sci-fi story move along.
Those are the odd-numbered ones. But to be fair, Voyager was in the first, but then you have the weird probe in the fourth. So, okay, fine, they're also there. And then TNG, oh my god, I suddenly can't remember. Had only three Generations, Insurrection.
That's where Tom Hardy comes in. Nemesis.
Yes, he was in Nemesis. Oh my gosh, that was 4. See, I've lost count. And then the TNG. I admittedly, I always hoped that the other franchises would get movies, and then I wanted a Deep Space Nine spin-off movie series. I'd love a Voyager spin-off movie series, but by then I think that's where we hit peak Trek, where there were too many Treks going on in the late 90s, early 2000s, and there was not enough room for everybody to get movies and stuff. So that didn't happen. So I don't want that to happen again. I'm not entirely against the Kelvin universe. Star Trek 2009 was still an awesome, fun movie. I thought it was a great way to bring new people to the franchise. We were excited with what J.J. Abrams was doing, and then
despite the lens flare,
yeah, it's part of the thing, and his Apple Enterprise ship. So, but he left us for Star Wars because really, Star Trek 2009 was his demo reel to get into the Star Wars franchise.
Which he stated in many interviews.
Yeah, so it's okay. So that Wrath of Khan thing wasn't great. I mean, the Into Darkness one, and then the
movies felt so much like fan films. He was writing.
There are better fan films,
yeah, but in the sense that he was writing it because he knew he wanted fans to react to it, but then he's not doing it in a way that the fans really wanted.
Yeah, or they didn't really stay integral to the story.
Because when you had Benedict Cumberbatch give that specific line, it meant nothing.
It had no impact.
So it was really meant for the fans, but then the fans didn't want it to happen that way. So
yeah, so it was certainly choices happen, but we again, it helped keep Star Trek alive. I treat the later Star Trek movies like the Michael Bay Transformers movies. They serve the purpose. They introduce the franchise to a wider audience. You may not necessarily love them as much as a long-term.
They're not made for you.
Yeah,
they're made for the new audience.
Especially the later ones. We are not the target audience. So, but yeah, this is like a super, super blitzy. There are too many Star Trek things to cover. I haven't touched on the books and the games and whatnot. But, what are last thoughts? As someone who wasn't necessarily super into it, and then I kind of got you into it. What do you think of the franchise, and what do you take away from it? I guess
I'm worried how they're slowly chipping away at the idealism that was offered in the earlier shows.
That's fair. That's a concern of a lot of us longer
ever since I guess I felt it more with Picard, I know it was already happening with Discovery and the movies, but I guess in both those, with both of those, I could still see it as maybe those were pocket moments in the sense that it's an organization. Of course, there are bad apples in an
Yeah, I
organization.
mean, to be fair, TNG had that one random early episode where there were these alien infiltrators in the Federation, and they had to kill them very graphically with a very hokey puppet.
Hmm.
But yeah, I get that. I've always been worried about this need to turn the stories more gray
Or
and that
more,
it's
more
more internal
real.
threats.
Yeah,
Yes.
or more real. And now in Picard, we're starting to see that there's poverty, there's addiction, there's so much corruption. So it's starting to make you feel like, okay, so Trek's idealistic world didn't work, and I don't like that. I don't like that idea. I'd like to think that it worked, and there are forces trying to destroy it, rather than the idealism was a lie.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I totally like that feeling. I mean, in the course of this pandemic, the core, what I think of as the core Trek shows, which is like anything from TOS up until Enterprise, are still a lot more comforting to me than any of the newer stuff. I have never rewatched Discovery or Picard just yet. But I have totally rewatched all the other Treks repeatedly, especially now. I'm more than happy. Even as Deep Space Nine actually was quite gritty for the time, and it actually put the Federation in war, which was weird.
Yeah.
But still, the organization would try to hold to its ideals, and I feel like that's like something to cling to in this pandemic.
I am also getting tired of these super animals. I mean, the whale in the movies was interesting, and then now we have tardigrades that have this major spore network, and it's starting to turn into. So what's next? Are we gonna have a plant that allows it to travel through time? Are we gonna have a what was the dog actually one of the entities like Q, and they're going to reveal that in a new show? I mean,
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap up with a few comments.
Yeah.
So Andre on YouTube asked, as someone who's not a fan of Trek, how do you convince others to watch it? I don't. It's sort of like my love for Dune. I don't hard sell Trek. I mean, Tobie had no choice. He lives with me. We're together in a relationship. He's gonna have to get into Trek. But no, but if people show an interest and like want to know more, then I can guide them through maybe which shows to start with. Especially now that they're all on Netflix. They're mostly on Netflix.
I wouldn't
so
even
that
see
helps.
it as having to convince someone to watch it. I think it's try it, check it out. It's the different shows, and I will say the different movies offer very different flavors.
But the movies are not on Netflix
and
anymore.
you might want to try it only because you might see something that will inspire you. It's sort of like to dare use for some of you who are more familiar with Star Wars, most of the Star Wars films tried to maintain a certain feel, and then Rogue One came around and went, see, it can be different.
Yeah, and I
Star
love
Trek
Rogue One.
has been like that ever since. It's been different approaches for the same idea, so it's worth exploring.
Oh, that's nice. Historian asks, I'm particularly worried with Disco Season 3. It's maybe going the way of Andromeda and all systems Commonwealth capitulating. It's exciting and scary. And for now, I don't want to judge it until it comes out. So we'll see what happens in this far-flung future. I was going to hold out against hope that this is going to be the Trek that we might have really wanted until Picard came out. Then like, oh my God, this fulfills me so much better. Not perfect, but
Mike has
it
a great
works.
comment. Maybe that's where Picard might go, like after getting the solution, Starfleet redeems itself.
Let's hope so.
I hope so.
Because, I mean, I don't want to entirely kill the Roddenberry utopian vision.
I would love Picard to be the fire that relights that utopia.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a great send-off for him.
Even though, like, he's a very different Picard at the end of the series.
But imagine if, given all the changes that he's gone through, now he's able to, like, spread this message of we must be better than who we are. And hell, if that is something he declares because of how Data has shaped his life, that would be awesome. Because, let's admit it, Data's send-off was not exactly the best. Yeah.
Ooh, Arve has a long comment. So that So as a new Trekkie who decided to binge old Trek, I tend to take the new gen series and films with a grain of salt. Saga is such a great franchise; it doesn't get too mundane, even if new plot lines are being surfaced. Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it's like I always I look at things like Discovery and the like as new ways
Mhm.
to try to get new fans
Yes.
into the franchise. And that's always good, you know, and you just have to welcome it with open arms. I mean, if, and I think there's still more solid efforts than some of the weird side diversions other franchises have taken. So that, I mean, to be fair, any Star Trek, we haven't really had like an absolutely terrible
Mhm.
Star Trek show, knock on wood and all that. But I mean, they have their market, and all of them kind of work.
So to close this episode, I think I have 3 questions that I'd like to throw and make it our question
And that will
answer
take
part.
us into an hour.
That's fine. Question number 1 would see now I forgot there. Question number 1 would be new series, and you had your dream wish. What would make that series? What would be the key interesting thing about that series? It would be about blank. What would be its focus?
I will try to fulfill the gaps in my life, and we need to finish what Enterprise started.
Mm.
We need to talk about the Romulan War. We need to talk about the actual creation of the Federation. I need more Captain Shran.
Mm. I would love to have a series where the captain is a hologram.
Okay.
And,
Just as a concept.
and it
That
has
there's a
the entire
captain.
crew have that feeling of, of course he's willing to go through all the risks. He's a hologram.
Okay.
But he, on the other
Okay.
hand, is like super, now all the more the crew matters.
Okay.
So I'd love something like that.
Question number 2.
Question number 2 would be, what did you prefer more? Old school ship battles, where they were like ships, or the new school now, where they're like starships flying around super fast?
Oh, sorry. I'm like definitely old school.
Mhm.
And I subscribe to if you could look at, there's a YouTube channel called Space Doc. Excellent analysis, and where they criticize the last Discovery battle makes no sense tactically. It's just a mess of ships.
Mhm.
Even the Picard standoff at least was like still Picardy Star Trek, but then still weird mess of ships. I still prefer like each ship is a strong confrontation in itself, and then the battles were not. I mean, as Space Talk stresses, space battles are only relevant to the viewer when you can keep track of the action and you care about who's getting hurt.
That's true.
And so that you need to know what the ships are and who the heroes are. And when you don't have that, you just have a lot of explosions.
I agree. I still like the older battles as well. The newer ones make me question what's the point of all these ships flying close to each other when you have all this long-range technology, long-range photon torpedoes and all this and that. It just feels like they're all unnecessarily getting close to each other so we can feel the action.
Yeah, and then, I'm sorry, launching shuttles in a battle for the heck of it made no sense. But anyway, question number 3. And there are a few more comments before we go.
But let's wrap up the comments just so that after question number 3 we end.
Well, Kino just says that didn't they explore the hologram captain? Yes, the doctor got to be a captain to some degree. So what Tobie is saying, he wants a full show.
Yes, a full show. Can you imagine everything focused on that? And the captain's always, he never rests, he never sleeps, and the crew's like, how will we even compare?
Okay. And then YouTube, there was one other thing.
Yeah.
A historian wants a series of a former Starfleet admiral who gets elected to become a Federation president. That's just kind of cool. We haven't really fully explored the Federation politics side, apart from captains disagreeing with Federation policy. So that could be cool. Okay, last question.
Last question would be, if you ran a Star Trek role-playing game session,
okay,
what would be your peg from the series and the movies so the players know what to expect?
Okay, admittedly, the easiest approach might be something closer to Picard, where you have a smaller ship of possibly Federation or at least aligned characters working together to resolve things. It definitely feels more Firefly than the like. Only because the whole proper Federation starship experience might be too restrictive. I mean, I played a few play by email games like this where I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy that goes to the ship because it is a military structure, and uh, it may not be as fun for players. So for player characters, but depending on what they want, of course. I think something like a small crew on an independent ship might be more interesting, and exploring this Federation universe. So there may or may not be active Starfleet, and all these things. What would be your RPG scenario?
Oh,
Sorry, you got to answer it too.
yeah. I'm probably will just say the unreleased Voyager section,
Hmm?
the 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 upcoming series with Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, the Section 31.
Yeah,
So you want to do Section 31?
Only because that for me would give me new material to work with.
That's fair.
I feel like
Fair.
I feel like any attempts to do any of the more traditional stories in a role playing game would have players like you going, "Oh, this is like episode blah blah blah," or "This is like that other episode where they did this as a solution."
It's bound to
And-
happen.
And I'd be like, "Oh, they know what this one's supposed to resolve as," and so I might end up having to do something very different, a different genre altogether. I might
Mm.
make it a survival horror track story just to get you guys, catch
There
off
are a
guard.
few episodes like that.
I know.
Mine was like a Deep Space Nine setting RPG. It's possible. I have the source books.
Yes.
There are supporting source books for command science and tactical, and then there's also supporting source books for the different eras and character sheets for the different eras. It's the Star Trek Adventures RPG system is very expansive, and I am not yet ready to run it.
And it's the only question.
It's that 30 minutes later. So yeah, we really have to end the show now.
What if there were a series and all the characters were Borg, but they love the other characters so much so they appear as them?
What do you mean?
So you have this Borg who dresses up as Picard, and then you have a Borg who's 7 of 9.
That makes no sense because they're dressing up and they're breaking they're individuals. So that no, that doesn't
Okay.
that doesn't fly. Yeah, we can't keep
Steal the idea. Make
when
it a
these
show.
episodes go too long, the black screen still curses us. Now it's a 9:44 curse. It's strange.
It's a very strange
9:44,
curse.
9:43. It's still 13 minutes from the half-hour mark.
But that's more than 30 minutes, and we had a great time. I had to change it. We had a lot of fun, and we hope that you'll join us next time.
Yeah. Wow, so many captions to look at. All right. If you have questions for me and Tobie or suggestions for future episodes, maybe not Star Trek, because Star Trek is really big, feel free to fill in this Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter. This is also
Also,
Vino Shade. I'm RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog at baduypride.com. You can find old episodes, photos, and snippets about our lives.
All right. And of course, feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what your favorite Star Trek is. What are your favorite episodes? What's your favorite ship? And why is it not the Enterprise C? Because that's mine. So be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I am Rocky.
And I'm Tobie.
And this is Baduy Pride.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, end screen.
Are you not going to do the hand thing?
Oh, we can do that. Can you?
I'm
like confused where
it's
to
not visible.
choreograph.
That's okay.
I don't know where to put my hand.
That's fine.
Okay.